Hi there and hello, welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we are going to talk about how to trust yourself instead of questioning yourself and listening to what everyone else is saying. And why this is so important is that when you trust yourself and you trust your inner nudges, you trust what comes from your heart and what comes from your soul, this is guiding you on your highest aligned path if you want. Well, this can look differently for, of course, every person, but even for yourself. It's not that there is one perfect timeline that you have to achieve. It's more so that there can be twists in how your life is playing out, but usually if you're listening to what your soul really is guiding you towards doing, then you will probably find more fulfillment and contentment. And I'm intentionally not saying happiness here because happiness is just a state in a moment. We can feel happy when we buy a new crystal, but that also just fades at some point. So it's more important from my view to just have contentment, satisfaction, and alignment in mind when it comes to creating a beautiful life that makes you feel good and fulfilled. So different aspects here that I want to mention is, again, why is it so important? I just iterated on that. And what you really can do to start is to just dive a little bit deeper into your family history and to see, maybe you have been conditioned to not trust yourself, and that's why it's so hard for you, because maybe there was incongruency in your family, as in they said one thing, but you knew that they were meaning another, because maybe their words were saying a certain thing, but their energy was saying something else. Right? So what you basically learn through that behavior as a child is that you cannot really trust what you're feeling because people are saying differently. So maybe they even reinforce that perception by saying, well, I didn't say that, or, I didn't say anything, la la la, but really you knew as a child or teenager or whatever, maybe even as an adult from like a relationship that you had, that it just wasn't the case. And what it does on the long term, it's just really hurting your own self-esteem, self-trust, and listening to yourself because you feel like you're wrong innately because you can't trust these intuitive nudges. And so it's really important to go back to that, just to have awareness whether this has impacted you in your life as well. And from there, I would really suggest that you start just gaining awareness for that, gaining awareness for what you're perceiving, and then taking note of that. Even if you just have the conscious awareness, you can start there, because your subconscious will just look out for these situations where you're like, oh, I have this feeling, but the person is really acting in a different way, or I have this feeling and I would do this or that, or blah, blah, blah. And then you just observe how the situation is going to play out, and especially how you are feeling. So here we come to another point. When you start on your self-trust journey, your emotions are your best friend, because your emotions are your natural lie detector radar, that for one, but also just your alignment or not an alignment detector. If you're feeling like a little bit outside of yourself and not very connected to yourself, maybe not very grounded, or just I'm looking for a different word than aligned, but if you're just feeling there's a disconnect from yourself and your outside world, it's very likely that you feel like you can't rely on yourself, like you are not really in your body. And I'm saying that with just attention, because sometimes people can be very airy when they're in their head, and it's just who they are. So it may look different for each and every person, but for me personally, for instance, I know that when I feel a bit like very brain foggy or in my head, or I feel like a certain pressure, like I feel a bit uneasy, I know that something is off. And whatever that feels like for you, when something is off, you will know that your body is sending you signals that this is not for your highest alignment, and that's completely okay. And if ever there's someone that is questioning this response from your body, this response from your system, you can be sure that they're not respecting who you are. They're not respecting, even probably not themselves, because they cannot see that you may be of a different standpoint than they are, and they're making it a little bit of an ego game to have you agree with them or to have you follow whatever they're saying, right? And for you, it's just important that you can come back to this congruency, come back to a calmness, come back to where you feel you are in charge, but also where you feel just at ease, right? And this can be sometimes a little bit tricky to figure out, because if you have been experiencing trauma from and it's resulted in not trusting yourself, you may at first feel a little bit fearful. You may at first feel anxiety when you start going your own way, just because you learn to rely on other people that would make the decisions for you. So it feels a little bit shaky, if you want, if you're starting just out on yourself and going your own path. And that is okay. That too, you will just observe and look at it with compassion. There's a lot of tools that you can use to ease that initial response. You can use tapping, for instance. You can move your body. There's somatic experiences, therapy, stuff like that, where you just shake it off and dance, or you really use EFT tapping and you tap out the feeling. If you've ever never heard of that, please go ahead and Google that, just emotional freedom technique, so that you can come back to a state of equilibrium and you can really come from this place of safety, because that is what it's really about. Self-trust is about a feeling of safety and not being in fight or flight, but instead being safe and grounded and in your root chakra. So you may even want to do energy work on your root chakra and maybe meditations to just really ground yourself and to calm down your nervous system, as well as breathing. So really focusing on your breathing and breathing out slowly. And then if the feeling persists, that you can still look at, well, maybe that's a response from my body that something is not right with this path, but this is how you will start differentiating, okay? You will just bring your body back to a state of equilibrium where it's just at ease, or technically it should be at ease after just like doing the breathing exercises for a couple of times, just letting it sit for a while. And then you will tune in again and be like, do I still feel this way? And for bigger decisions, you may want to wait for a week and then see how the response develops. That's how I do it when I am faced with a very important decision. I will always wait for a week to do so. For that, you can also look at your human design and see what your inner authority is. For me, it's emotional. So if there's an emotional response that I have to watch a little bit whether whether it's just a reaction or actually a intuitive feeling. Yes, so that's really important, and this is how you can start building self-trust, with the awareness, with bringing yourself into a state of safety, and then really feeling into your bodily responses. Sometimes you can also observe when you are asking a question. So I'm just bumping against my desk. That's not so good for the video, but please excuse me. You can ask your body, and there may be a feeling of expansion or contraction when you think of something, and I really urge you to trust the intelligence of your body, because all your cells, like your intelligence, is not only accumulated in your brain. There are studies that have shown that it is too in your heart and as well in your gut. So these are the response centers that you can ask for advice, so to say. And if you are asking a certain question and it is a yes or no question, you may also feel your body swing forwards or backwards. It might not be as intensely, but you may feel a little tendency of being pulled forward or pushed backwards. And then you can figure out from that whether your body is naturally telling you yes or no to a certain path, and whether something is in alignment with you or not. Alright, so that is that for today's video. I hope it served you. I would love to hear which technique really resonated with you, whether you have experimented with it so far, and yeah, let me know if you want more info on any of these techniques, and I'm looking forward to feeling you, seeing you, being with you in the next video. Alright, thank you. Bye.